In the know.
Good evening, everyone.
In the know.
Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, Tony Reeves, fire. Following the news in any way, shape, or form. No shortage of things to talk about. What does it mean? What will it bring? Is this a reality we simply have to accept? Tony Reeves, fire. Tony Reeves. Let's go ahead and get started.
The way Social Security treats you if you're 50 years or older is, I always tell people, they're not saying that you can't do anything. What the Social Security Administration's attitude typically is, once you get to that point, they recognize that you, as an older individual, might experience some difficulties adjusting to a changing workplace. Remember, the work environment is an ever-evolving environment. It doesn't just stay static for the same way. Just think about the number of people who worked in a work plant for one particular point in time, and then over time it's evolved to something different. So, but there's not just 50. 50 is not like this threshold cross the finish line, we're there. What they look at it is, they say at different segments, they look at your ability to adjust as becoming more and more impaired to a degree. So if you're 50 to 54, they basically say they consider you to be a closely approaching advanced age individual, and they consider that your age, along with a severe impairment and limited work experience, may seriously affect your ability to adjust to other work. So it's 50 to 54. 55 and older is what they call advanced age, and if you're 60 to 64, it's closely approaching retirement age. They consider your age to significantly affect your ability to adjust to other work. Now keep in mind, like I said, they're not saying they don't think you can do anything, and they're not trying to disparage you, especially with so many people now in their 70s and even 80s still working in the workforce. What they're saying is that, looking at your condition, they're fairly confident, or they have a reason to believe that, based on your age and your work experience and so forth, that you may have difficulty adjusting to other work. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what does it mean if you're over the age of 60.
Under the Social Security regulations, representatives are permitted to practice before the administrative agency anywhere in the country, which means that when you're looking for a representative, you can find someone who doesn't necessarily have to be in your state if you're just going before the administrative agency. So it's possible to have an attorney or representative who's from Utah, even though you may be in Georgia. And our office is actually no different. So if you're wondering which states we cover, check this out. Now, the tricky part is once you have to sue the Social Security Administration. Under that situation, you want to have an attorney that's representing you in your jurisdiction. So if you have a representative who's in another state and you've gone all the way to the Appeals Council and you've been denied and you want to sue the Social Security Administration, make sure you ask that representative whether or not they can sue someone in that particular state.
They have special rules in this category if you're closely approaching retirement age. And the reason why they're special is because once you hit retirement age, they tend to think that you are typically sufficiently, and I hate to say it because I've had this happen in hearings where the judges basically say, when you hit 60, you're at a sufficient point where they believe your ability to adjust to work may be much more significant than if you were in your 50s and your 40s. Again, same thing. Think of it like this. I give people a good example. I said, my mom is in her 60s. If you ask her what was the world like when she was 18, at the time when I talk about there's no cell phones. Let's talk about that there were no tape cassette players. Okay, there was no, at that time, vinyl records were just coming out. 8 tracks weren't even invented yet. So we're talking about color TV was only a recent phenomenon. So you've got to think in mind, 18, and then by the time you're 60, we're talking about a good 42 years later in terms of how the work environment has evolved. And so you're now taking someone who may have been removed significantly from the work environment, or at least some of the changes, and asking them to reintegrate based on their experiences, and they may have a significant difficulty. So Social Security treats it like that they take consideration that when you reach a certain age with your work experience and background, you may have difficulty reintegrating into the workforce to a degree. Now, if you've got a representative, don't be surprised when you're running into representatives and they ask that question, how old are you? And in some instances, they may take a more proactive role if you're over the age of 50, because most reps are aware that the Social Security regulations tends to be a little bit more user-friendly once you get over the age of 50. 45 to 49 in particular, but definitely once you hit the age of 50. So at that point, they're asking more specific questions because they know that the regulations are set up in such a way that that being in the age bracket of 50 and above, that the rules as how they apply to you are a little bit more unique, because now your age becomes a significant vocational factor that the government has to take in consideration.
I want to thank all of you for engaging in the videos. Make sure you take the opportunity to send me any comments or send me any particular questions that you want me to have addressed here. As you know, this show is for you, and so the only way I can make sure that I can provide you some good information is if you provide me some good questions. Keep them coming, and right here on Q&A, Social Security Disability Today.